The orchard. Exterior garden orchard, late afternoon. We see a series of constantly moving shapes, the wings of a fly beating, arthritic knuckles, pollen seeds, spade digging in the earth, wasps buzzing closely on rotting fruit, muddy nails. All the images are random, too close to give a linear narrative. They all complete with intensity until they blur into the ochre shades of the afternoon sun. The late afternoon, the sun is getting lower in the sky. We open up to see a small garden orchard dotted with apple trees, heavily laden with apples. Scattered on the ground and the grass are fallen apples laying rotting. Crawling over their dark, bruised flesh are flies and wasps that buzz, fighting for supremacy. Interior kitchen, morning. Clara Phillips, mid-60s, homely in appearance, clicks on the switch of the radio. The kettle whistles over the sound of a local radio station playing the 8 a.m. news. The news reporter is talking about growing demonstrations at GM farms over the UK. Clara reaches for a flowery china cup from the sink to make a cup of tea. Cut to interior hallway, continuous. Light and sunny hallway with a small table with the house phone sat on it. An address book is set open next to it and a message pad with doodles scrawled on it. On the cold, tiled floor, a basket of shoes nestles under the table. The phone is ringing. We hear a smashing sound of a cup or plate hitting the floor. The phone stops and then almost immediately starts ringing again. Clara rushes into the hallway, muttering under her breath.
I'm coming.
There are wet patches on Clara's trousers. We see Clara flex her fingers as she picks up the phone.
Hi, Mom. Thank God you're at home.
Rebecca, you're okay? You don't normally call this early. James hasn't hurt himself.
No, nothing like that. Actually, are you okay, Mom? You sound out of breath.
Yes, love. I just dropped my tea rushing to the phone.
Cut to interior Eve's kitchen, continuous. Eve Phillips is an attractive, early 30s, ambitious, executively dressed. She has a Bluetooth headset on, talking to Clara. She is busy putting breakfast on the table for James Phillips, aged 6 years, mop of golden hair, angelic face. Eve's kitchen is very modern and tidy. All through the conversation with Clara, Eve is busy pouring milk, making coffee, putting sandwiches in a school bag. We see a laptop sitting open with scientific gene sequences multiplying.
Mom, listen, I know you had James last weekend, but do you think you could have him for a couple of days? It's work. They asked me to come in. I'm needed in the lab.
It's fine.
It's just we're getting real close to a breakthrough. This could really start to make a difference with the farmers. I mean, this might even lead to a promotion.
James, stop. It's fine. I love having James. He's no problem at all, and it stops me thinking about your dad.
Eve reaches for a ripe red apple from a fruit bowl. She places it on a chopping board, picking up a knife.
Oh, Mom, you are the best. I'll be there around 4 p.m. if that's okay. Oh, hang on. Haven't you got table tennis then?
The tip of the knife is just piercing the red skin, then slides right through with the apple, splitting in two. Some pips explode out onto the board. Cut to interior hallway, continuous.
I won't go today.
Sorry?
No, I've got too much to do in the garden anyways. They won't miss me. Actually, James can help me with all the apples.
You'll love that. See you later. Love you, Mom.
The phone cuts off even before Clara can answer.
I love you too.
Clara hangs up the phone and makes her way toward the kitchen. Main title sequence, the orchard. Interior kitchen, continuous. The kitchen is very homely and welcoming. On the wall is a large clock that ticks loudly. There's a large wooden table with a vase of flowers from the garden. The table is cluttered with recipe books and jam jars labeled Summer 2018 on them. There are a few reddish stains from fruit. A tea towel hanging over the back of one of the chairs. By the back door of the kitchen leans an old wooden knobbly walking stick. Clara carefully steps over the broken china fragments of the cup. The morning sun is shining through the open kitchen window onto a bowl of very ripe apples. There are fruit flies beginning to land on them. Nestling nearby is a small silver trophy, Best Fruitiest Apple 2018, that glints in the sunlight. Clara waves them away and opens the kitchen window. We can hear the morning birds. The weather report is being announced on the radio. Climatologists announce unusually high pollen count even for this time of year. Government advise closing windows to help. Clara clicks off the radio in irritation, pushing her window wider. Clara picks up a cloth and bends down to pick up and clear away the broken china. As she stands up, she suddenly grasps her back in pain.
Oof.
She flexes her hand again and leans against the table, steadying herself. Interior hallway later. Eve closes the front door. James runs to his grandmother.
Nana!
Clara ruffles his hair as James wraps his arms around her legs.
Hello, trouble.
I smell apple pie. My favorite.
James skips off toward the kitchen. Eve puts down James's overnight bag and balances a red bowl on top.
This might may keep him busy in the garden, give you some peace.
Clara hugs her daughter, then stands back and looks at her for a second.
What?
Your father would be so proud of you. Please be careful. I heard about the demonstrators on the news.
Eve smiles at her mother.
Don't believe all that you hear on the news, Mom. James, come give me a kiss goodbye.
James runs back into the hallway, sees the bowl, and grabs that instead, running off towards the kitchen.
Bye, Mum.
Oi, don't play with that in the house.
I know.
Clara and Eve laugh.
Oh, I almost forgot.
Eve rummages in her handbag, hands Clara a small brown bottle without a label.
I don't want you getting in trouble.
A drop or two in your watering can. It's fertilizer. I don't think that's against the rules, Mom.
Interior exterior front door continuous. Clara waves goodbye to her daughter as the car pulls out of the drive. Interior kitchen later. Clara is rolling pastry in the kitchen for an apple pie. Flour floats in the air. There's a handprint of flour on a kitchen cupboard door. Below it, pie dishes are waiting to be filled. Clara glances out the kitchen window, watching James kicking his football around the garden. Seed heads are floating around in the air with pollen all disturbed by the ball. A ping sounds from the oven. As Clara opens the oven door, a cloud of steam engulfs her. Clara removes a freshly baked apple pie. She sets it on one side to cool. She washes her hands and then makes her way out into the garden. We hear the clock strike 6 p.m. Exterior garden orchard continuous. The evening sun is now lower, catching in Clara's hair. We can hear muffled traffic and the sound of wood pigeons. Clara is walking towards one of the apple trees. James stays playing near the house with his ball. On the trunk of one of the trees are a collection of flies. They all stuck to the trunk by their tongues, with their wings pulled back high, almost contorted behind them. They look almost angel-like. Clara looks puzzled and leans in closer to study them. There is a sudden burst of buzzing from the flies as they struggle to release themselves that makes Clara jump. They are then deathly stilled. Clara leans back in to look closer. As she gets closer, the whole garden becomes quieter, almost muffled. At this point, all the flies' abdomens eject microscopic spores that look like pollen. Clara starts to cough. We see the spores quickly bury into her skin. We see a brief flash of the capillaries in her skin dilate and turn purple, and they are gone. The garden is now back alive with sound. Clara rubs her face, wipes her hands on her trousers. Clara turns distracted by the sound of James kicking the ball against the house. He stops and looks at his grandmother questionably. Interior kitchen later. Clara is clearing the plates from the table. James is just finishing his piece of apple pie. Clara leans against the sink and closes her eyes. She rubs the brow of her nose.
Are you okay, Nana?
Yes, I just have a bit of a headache, that's all.
Cut to interior spare bedroom evening. There is a single bed with colorful bed linen. Next to it is a small table with bedside lamp and a photo frame of Eve with baby James. James is tucked up in bed. Clara is cuddled up next to him, reading Snow White.
And then the witch holds out her twisted old hand towards...
We see the illustration of the old witch hand stretched out to Snow White.
Was this Mummy's book, Nana? When's she coming back?
Day after tomorrow. Don't you like it, James? Well, I'll have to go pick up something more modern. Now sleep. Love you.
Clara kisses James on the head and tucks his teddy in under his arm. She places the book by the side of his bed. Clara pulls the bedroom door to, but not shut. We can see James and the book in the shaft of light from the door. His eyes are closed already, asleep. Interior lounge, night. Clara is sitting in a large chair watching TV. The news is on with a headline story about demonstrators break into GM farm, and the news reporter is talking to a guest about the implications to crops and possible genetic alteration in people. The room is busy with photos of family, old wedding pictures, baby photos, and a funeral service card for George Phillips, aged 67 years, dated 04/12/2017. There are ornaments on a mantelpiece with a gas fire sitting dormant. By the side of Clara is a basket full of balls of wool, all brightly colored. The TV remote is balanced on the chair arm. On a small table is a glass of water and a packet of headache tablets. Clara's eyes start to close. She is fast asleep. On her arms we see the veins dilate. On her hand there is a yellowing patch with some very small roundish patches, similar to the rotting apples. Cut to interior spare bedroom later. James opens his eyes sleepily. We can hear occasional coughing from below. James calls out,
Nana?
He falls back to sleep, snuggling into the pillow and teddy. Cut to interior kitchen continuous. On the wall near the kitchen window, the night light reflects the shadows of the bowl of overripe apples. The bodies of flies appear to be dead, in the same angel-like pose as in the orchard on the kitchen wall. We hear Clara coughing from another room, and the ticking of the kitchen clock intensifies. Interior lounge, morning. James stands at the door watching Clara sleep. James looks unsure as if he should wake her. He is about to go to her when he sees his ball in the hallway. He picks it up and heads towards the kitchen. Interior kitchen, moments later. James is standing by the back door to the garden. He quietly unlocks it. On the table is last night's leftover apple pie. He walks over and sticks his finger in, pulling out a bit of sticky apple and popping it into his mouth, then runs out into the garden. Interior hallway, moments later, the phone starts to ring. Interior lounge, continuous. Clara is startled by the sound of the phone waking her. She is disoriented, waking up in the chair. She stands stiffly, rubbing her neck. She has dark circles under her eyes. Clara staggers into the hallway and reaches the phone as it stops. An answer phone message is heard playing. It is Eve.
Hi, Mom. Sorry to miss you. You were probably in the garden. Anyway, give a big kiss to James and tell him I love him. I'll call later. Bye.
James runs into the hallway for the end of the message. He looks sad that he missed his mom.
You up and outside already? Come on, no glum faces. You can speak to Mummy tonight, sweetie. Let's go have some breakfast.
I have, Nana. I've had more apple pie.
James Phillips, you are lucky your mom's not here.
James looks full of mischief and giggles.
Right. Go play. Nana's gonna get washed and dressed. No more pie or you will be sick.
James watches as his grandmother climbs the stairs. He looks a little concerned. Interior Clara's bedroom, morning. Clara's bed sits perfectly made, bedside lamps on tables either side. A carafe of water, prettily painted, sits on one. On her dressing table there are a pot of hairbrushes, a jewelry box, makeup bag, open. A photo of Clara and her husband, with Eve as a child. Clara stands in front of the bed with yesterday's stale clothes in a pile. In the reflection in the mirror on the dressing table, we see Clara's naked back. There appears to be yellowish and purple patches all over her back. Clara pulls a top on over her head, unaware of the markings. Clara picks up the carafe of water and drinks it all thirstily. She then walks into the ensuite bathroom, filling the glass 2 more times. She leans forward, steadying herself by holding onto the basin, glass sliding into the sink. We see the pain in Clara's eyes. She leans to look at herself in the mirror. Her eyes are looking bloodshot, and there are dark patches under her eyes. She opens the bathroom cabinet and takes out some paracetamol tablets. She struggles to open the bottle, and the tablets scatter into the sink.
Christ.
Clara sighs and picks up 2 tablets and pops them in her mouth. She fills the glass again and downs the water as the other tablets disappear down the sink. Clara notices the bruising on her hand for the first time. There seems to be some small scabs, which she picks with her nail. Pus starts to ooze out. She opens the cabinet again and pulls out a small medical box. She wipes it with disinfectant wipe, wincing in pain. From downstairs she can hear James calling her. Clara hurriedly puts a plaster over the wound, pausing for a second to look at the mark on her arm. Interior hallway, moments later. James is standing in the hallway with a mug of tea in his hand. He holds it a little unsteadily. Clara is walking slowly down the stairs.
I made you a cup of tea to make you feel better, Nana.
Thank you, darling.
Shouldn't we tell Mommy you're not well?
Clara takes the tea from James.
Absolutely not. I'm fine. Your mother has important work to do.
But
But no buts.
Exterior garden orchard, afternoon. Clara and James are sitting on a rug in the garden. They are both bare feet in the sunshine. There's a picnic of strawberry jam sandwiches and some biscuits. Clara is slowly dunking a biscuit in her cup of tea. James is taking a large bite of sandwich while telling Clara about where Eve bought his ball. Clara is looking very pale and tired. She winces with the sunlight in her eyes.
James, Nana's not feeling well. I think I'm going to need to go.
She turns away quickly from James and then is violently sick. James looks a little scared.
I'll go get you a cloth, Nana.
He runs towards the house. Clara is sick again. It's more yellowy brown pus texture. She tries wiping it from her mouth. Interior kitchen, moments later. James is running to the kitchen. He hears the phone ringing. He grabs the cloth and is about to run back to Clara when he hears Eve's voice. He runs into the hallway to answer it. Interior hallway, moments later. James grabs the phone.
Mummy? Mummy, Nana's been sick.
What? Calm down, darling. Where's Nana now?
She sat in the garden.
She should have called me.
She said I couldn't tell you.
Okay, baby. You need to be a good boy for Nana.
Mummy, I want you to come home.
I will, baby. I'm leaving now. I'll be there soon. Give Nana a nice, cool glass of water. I will be there as fast as I can. I promise. I love you.
Please be fast.
James puts the phone down. Interior kitchen, moments later. James grabs the cloth from the sink. He is about to race out of the kitchen when he notices his grandfather's old walking stick. He quickly grabs that, and we see him from the kitchen window reach Clara. Exterior garden orchard, continuous. James sits down next to Clara and gently hands her the cloth.
Are you feeling better, Nana?
Clara gently wipes her face clean. Her breathing is a little heavy and raspy. All the noises in the garden seem to be exaggerated.
Oh, I'm sorry, James. Nana just isn't feeling too good. Oh, let's just sit here for a while.
She sits quietly, trying to ease her breathing. She can see that James is worried.
I brought Granddad's old walking stick. He used it when he was tired.
Clara smiles at James and grasps his hand.
Yes, you did. That was a good thought.
James slowly helps Clara to stand up. He hands Clara the walking stick, and they both stagger back towards the house. The light is beginning to change, and the sound of wood pigeons beginning to roost.
Mummy called, Nana. She's coming home.
She didn't have to do that.
But Clara is too tired to argue. Interior kitchen, moments later. Clara is stood by the sink. She looks out at the orchard as she drinks a glass of water, lost in another world. We see Clara's eye lenses flicker with a secondary alien lens for a split second, and then gone. James is standing behind her. He pulls gently on Clara's sleeve.
Nana, are you feeling better now?
Clara turns to look at James. There is concern in her bloodshot eyes. As she leans down to James, there are flickers of capillaries in her face, almost moving. James looks a little frightened and takes a step back.
James, sweetheart, I'm gonna have to lay down. Go play in the garden. Mommy will be here.
But James has already run off into the garden. Clara coughs, and there's a thick, sticky mucus in her hand. She wipes it on the tea cloth hanging on the chair as she leaves the kitchen. Clara clutches the walking stick as she staggers into the hallway. The ticking of the clock in the kitchen seems to slow and grow in noise. Interior hallway continuous. As the noise becomes too much, she releases the walking stick, cluttering to the ground. Clara staggers forward with her hands on her ears, trying to stop the noise. As the sun drops lower, the light cascades through the hallway onto Clara. Suddenly her hands drop, and there is no sound. She takes another step, and then another. We follow Clara's footsteps, which are now leaving sticky, oozing footprints. She slowly and with great effort ascends the stairs, one slow step at a time. As she reaches the landing, her whole body pivots to face down the stairs. Her arms begin to reach back behind her, and up, distorted grotesquely. We hear the cracking of arm sockets as she is left in the same angel pose as the flies. We see Clara's terrified eyes as she is suddenly aware of what is happening to her body, unable to call out as the slimy substance dribbles from her mouth. The low sun casts her grotesque shadow across the hallway wall. From the bottom of the stairs we look up to see Clara's abdomen has also extended. James runs into the hallway after his ball that has stopped at the bottom of the stairs. As James picks up the ball and looks up, he sees Clara and starts to scream. Terrified James huddles against a wall, crying and calling,
Mummy! Mummy!
Exterior front door continuous. Eve rings the doorbell. She can hear James crying. She bangs on the door. She lifts up the flap to the letterbox and calls to James.
James, Mummy's here! It's okay, baby!
Interior hallway continuous. James is utterly terrified and cannot move. He can hear his mother and see her through the letterbox, but is still too scared to move. Exterior front door continuous. Eve is emptying out her bag, desperate to find the house keys. She keeps shouting to James she's coming. She finds the key and plunges it into the lock. In her haste, the key snaps in the lock. Eve's hand skids over the broken metal, slicing her hand open. Blood starts to drip down her hand. Eve is now frantic, tears appearing on her face. Eve drops her bag, her GM pass falling out of her bag. She shouts to James that she's coming and races to the side of the house. There is a wooden gate. She tries to open it, but it's bolted from the other side. Eve grabs a nearby rubbish bin, pulling it in front of the gate. She climbs onto it, feeling for the bolt on the other side. The bolt is slippery to open with her bloodied hand, but she pulls it open, wincing in pain. Eve bursts through the now open gate and into the garden. Interior hallway, continuous. Eve races into the hallway, pulling James into her arms. He is sobbing and physically shaking. James stretches out his small hand, shakily pointing to Clara. Eve turns, falls backward in shock, her hand sliding in the ooze on the floor. Eve looks horrified and tries to wipe it off on her skirt.
It's okay, baby.
Eve stands and slowly walks up the stairs. She looks utterly terrified, the slime clinging unnoticed to her shoes as she gets closer to her mother.
Mom!
Mom? Mom, it's Eve? Mom, please?
Through the window we can see that the sun is close to setting. On the stairs, Eve calls out her mother's name.
Clara? Mom!
Eve is standing face to face with her mother. Clara's eyes suddenly shoot open. The but there's no life behind them. Replacing Clara's eyes are the secondary alien lens. Eve cries out and staggers back down a couple of steps. The sun finally sets, and Clara screams out. There is a secondary pause of stillness. Only James' whimpers can be heard. Eve looks at her mother's extended tummy for the first time, reaching out her bloodied hand towards her mother. Clara's extended abdomen retracts, and spores eject from Clara's mouth, engulfing Eve like a flower being pollinated. The hallway goes dark as the sun sets. All we can hear is James' screams and Eve's cries as her mother collapses into her arms.